Hello and welcome, everybody. It's another Tuesday, and you know what that means. That means Spines and Spirits is back. Episode 2, the Drab Conversation. I'm your guide. My name is Adam, and I am intentionally dodging the little slivers of hate that Christy's throwing my way.
How long did it take you to come up with that line?
Just off the top of my head. Was that not good?
That was good. My name is Gerald. Today with a G, sometimes with a J. It depends on the day.
I'm Christy, and I'm only halfway here against my will today.
So you guys already know we're Spines and Spirits, spines relating to the books. Gerald, what spirit's haunting us this evening?
We're continuing with the Davies County.
That's right, 96 proof.
Yes, sir. And we're going to take a nice little sip. Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Straight out of that Kentucky bourbon.
No chaser,
No chasers.
No.
So we're going to dive back in. We left you guys after chapter 6. And that was on June the 6th, on Patrick Rothfuss's birthday, which was not his 6th, but it was his 50th. So yeah, we left you guys with chapter 6. We're going to be moving on to chapter 7. This is basically what we're going to refer to as day 1, and that's what the rest of this book is going to take place. It starts with the chapter beautifully describing the sun coming across the town. You know, it talks about different things it's reflecting off of. It's moving into the Waystone, you know, up until it hits Folly, and it kind of dies. Wonder what that could mean. Quoth goes down. He asks the chronicler how people start his stories. Kind of goes back and forth about, I guess, noodling around how he wants to do it. And then he asks the chronicler, how well or how fast can you write? And chronicler says faster than most people can talk. And so Quoth has him try and show him what he's doing. And Quoth basically breaks that cipher within 30 minutes. Shows that he is the same person that the chronicler heard the stories about, that learned, supposedly all of Tema within a day. Coat basically goes on to have 3 false starts where, he chooses 3 different starting points and then ends up kind of going back and saying, yeah, we might as well start with the most important person in the universe, which is me. We could break down the monologue that he has to end this chapter, probably to be Storybook a year and a day, but we're not going to do that. We are going to bring up when different points of this monologue are hit throughout this book in this series, and you'll even see 1, maybe 2 of them today. Guys, anything you want to add on here?
I would just like to mention, as you said, the sword folly, that the sun sign on it, and it wasn't a bright sign. It was more of a dull sign, and that the book kind of says that it was a knowledge of sort of a small beginning, like you're saying. He's about to tell a story, and it's also it says that it's a comparing of the ending of a season, which I thought was really strange when I first read through it. You already covered that Quoth. He's now using the. Oh well, let me say this. He's now being preferred as Quoth instead of Coat as at this point going on, because the chronicler knows who he is, and Quoth ends up breaking down the chronicler's cipher in under 30 minutes, like Adam said beforehand. And I thought that was really strange, that how we understand this person named Coat to a degree, that he's just like a lonely innkeeper with a little bit more knowledge, but then Quoth enters the room and just shuts down all expectations just from maybe 2 or 3 pages where you're reading this book. And I thought that was amazing writing.
It's like all of a sudden he's just this person that's like, let's go to the only story that matters. mine, or however he
Yep.
says it. Yeah, different person.
So yeah.
I was the only thing I wanted to say is that, like, I don't know about y'all, but every time, and I mostly, like, I'll re-listen to this book on Audible. I'll re-listen to this book because, you know, just while I'm doing stuff or whatever, and it's kind of one of those things that I have in the background, like a song that I've already heard a million times. And every time they come to the part where they describe the cipher, my eyes just gloss over, and I feel like I just like don't care about this to even like really go into it myself. But I am curious to see if anybody out there has ever tried to actually like write out this language, and if they've been successful. If so, please drop it. You know, drop it in one of our chats.
Our social will be down in the description.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know the lingo.
We wait to see the cipher.
Yep, so we're gonna wait right now. We're just gonna waiting faces. I bet Gerald's waiting face right there in his head. He was going.
I had that in my head. Actually, I had the chain ring rhyme stuck in my head. What to do?
Same difference.
Anything else?
No, I think we pretty much covered chapter 7.
So that's going to take us into chapter 8, which is Thieves, Heretics, and Whores. And
my favorite chapter.
If you want to think about this chapter, you can look at it as another beginning. This could be the real start to the book for some people. I will say that I was guilty, probably like my first time I reread this, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to skip those first 50-something pages. I want to get straight to where he starts telling his story. And that, you really could if you really wanted to. It gives a good explanation of what the Ademaru life is and the type of people that they are. Basically, they come into a town. They're not completely welcome. Mayor's, discriminating against them, but not fully, because there's other people he's discriminating against as well. He actually takes the constable at one point over to what we will learn is Abinthy's cart, where he has his 2 donkeys. And we may call him Ben from here on. I don't know about you guys. I'll just refer to him as Ben. But like a big thing that stuck out to me in this chapter was when Quotes basically said, if you remember anything else about me, just remember I'm a Ademaru to my bones. Regardless of any of those stories, that's the one thing he wants people to remember. Meanwhile, in my head, I'm thinking this chapter is thieves, heretics, and whores, and Ben had a couple of asses with him.
Dang it, you made me forget the names of the donkeys. You made me forget the name of the donkey with that.
Alpha and Beta.
Yeah, Alpha and Beta, yeah. Yes.
They, possess great moral character. Apparently.
Much better than me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Apparently.
Yeah, so is there anything that was super impactful to this chapter you guys kind of wanted to hit?
I would say that, like you said, that Kof is proud of being a Ademaru. I took it when I first did a read through that these are the gypsies of this era, and
it's totally true. Yeah.
And Quoth is like, there's difference. There's other troop, but there's that Ademaru troop, and that's what I am proud to be a part of, because they have rules and regulations what they follow. They show so well that they have a patron that they are underneath a banner. A banner that they're underneath the Baron Greyflower. I mispronounced his name. One of you guys help me with the name?
Greyfallow.
Greyfallow. Yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Then actually like a Baron. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, like Adam said, the Demaru kind of have a bad name, where if they go anywhere, they're considered like beggars or thieves. That's like the title of saying.
So let me chime in on
Honestly,
that.
I was
because-
gonna, yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't necessarily know if it's the Edema-ru per se. I think it's one of those things where, you know, all Edema-ru are traveling performers, but not all traveling performers are Edema-ru. And so I think
Like
that's where they
all
get their
thumbs
bad
are
rep.
fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That was definitely it.
Yep.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Nope. I think Adam makes a good point, and Gracie with that great. What would you call that?
Honestly, I was gonna say, like, sometimes I really do wonder, because I mean, if you think about it, if you're a kid, you obviously, like, you know, when you're a kid, you think your dad is a superhero, and you think, you know, your mom's a princess, and you know, everything is kind of, you know, even though they do say that quote's pretty mature at this point, but I mean, I still kind of sometimes wonder if he is overstating like how good the Edema-ru is, or traveling troops for that matter, just because like everybody in the world, everybody in the series from here on out, like, it's always talking like, you know, the Ru are just like these terrible people, and that, you know, traveling troopers are just, you know, usually trashy people, and he's constantly defending them, saying we don't do those kind of things. And but I'm like, you know, I kind of wonder, like, I mean, you've heard the things that Tripp said at the door, you know, like, are they really that? You know, maybe his dad was a good guy and his mom, but I don't know, kind of makes me wonder.
Empty head still pays full price.
Yep. Oh, I have
What
more.
was
I
the-
can't do it. Oh,
Yeah,
nope.
oh yeah, I was gonna say there's things we can't say, I guess, because
Yeah.
or you know, older kids might watch this. So. But
There
I
is
do
one-
want to say, like, I was something new. It's just that, like, I do hope, because this is the introduction of Ben, and obviously I think anybody that's read the series wonders where Ben is for the next, like, you know, rest of this, or you know, rest of this book and the next book and stuff. And I mean, I just, for one, would love to see him in the third book come up in some way.
Spoilers, y'all. Spoilers. What she just said right there.
Yeah, I should have said that anyway. Like, spoilers abound. We're assuming if you guys
Yeah.
pick this book up to follow along with us, you couldn't hold back, and you're already way ahead of us anyway.
Yeah. I will say one more thing that we forgot to touch. I'm just going to take it real brief. That when Quoth was introducing the Demaru, he says both his mother and father were Demaru to their bones, but then he lightly, will you say disarray, or he just glossed over that his mother was just a noble. That's something that's pretty impactful after you read a few more chapters in this book, that it's kind of a big thing being a noble. It's not just something you're like, oh yeah, she was just a noble and it's cool, but she's truly a Demaru. That's something that I thought was kind of odd when I first read through it, and I'm like, that's interesting. He's
I think that
praising
was
the
his,
Demaru, but the nobles, he just like, oh, yeah, my mother was a noble, but she jumped ship to be a Demaru, y'all.
I think that was a veiled attempt at Patrick Rothfuss, like, trying to, like, I guess, hide something in plain view, because there's so many, like, I don't know, there's so many theories, obviously, about everything out for this book, but I think the one theory that almost everybody could agree on is that Quoth's mom is Lady Lackless. You know, that's where she came from.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, if anybody disagrees with me that she is not Lady Lackless, please, once again, reach out to us on our socials.
I think that, yeah, I do think that it, I wouldn't say he's trying to hide it in plain sight. I really think it's, you know, typical epic tragedy trope. You know, the hero has some magical ties back to nobility that nobody knew about early on, and so if you read that one sentence right in the first book early on, you would have put two and two together. I don't know. That's just my thinking on it. But yeah,
And you also, I think,
it's Lady Lackless.
I think,
but it's late. Like
and we need to like hurry up and get off the that subject. But I really think that it's Quoth being so careful in telling his story that he's doing it. He's explaining it as 11-year-old Quoth. You know what I'm saying? Like he put himself in the mindset, because after a while, I mean, sooner or later, in a couple more chapters, you can see where Quoth has learned many things, and I'm not going to break that down, but yes.
Yeah, and he does say, he's most comfortable on a stage.
Yep. So I think he's living up. I will say that he's really, like you're saying, he grew up going on stage. He loves to perform, and we noticed that Colt does not like to perform. This is now a good introduction of Quoth himself. So yes.
What makes you say that he doesn't like to perform?
Well, Colt, remember in Colt didn't like. Let me say, Colt didn't never really like to get involved with everybody else's stories. Like when Cobb was telling stories, he never interjected. He kind of like stayed there, being like the lonely barkeeper. It says that you notice that if Colt starts to hum, he doesn't know he's humming because he will stop himself.
Sorry, I didn't hear the distinction between Coat and Quoth. Because I was going to say, Quoth was like born for the stage.
Yeah.
And I know we've got a lot to cover tonight, but I could add on there, maybe he really does like the stage because he was staying in character the whole time that he is in the inn as Coat. I don't know. Something to think about.
I mean, yeah, that's actually a really good point. Honestly, maybe he is on the stage this whole time telling the story just so he can wait and kill the chronicler after it's all done.
I want to say it's even said at one point that he's like, do you really think you can leave now that you know?
Yeah, that's something that I've always stuck in my head, is that maybe this is just all like a ruse to get him for whatever reason. Honestly, and I'll go way too deep on this one, because remember that thrice locked chest is iron, and I don't, and we'll see when we go later on, because I can't actually even remember if Quoth knows the name of iron or not. But
Quoth doesn't, I don't think. Yeah, and it's mentioned tonight too.
Mm-hmm. We'll get that later.
Actually, so Chronicler knows. Maybe that's something that he needs to open the chest with. So
because he basically says there's only like a handful, right?
Yeah,
something like that. I can't remember.
Only a handful.
One of the few. That's another chapter. Many more chapters later.
Oh gosh,
that's actually not many more. Like I said, we'll get to that point tonight.
Yeah, we're getting there. Anyways,
Okay, yes.
I was gonna say, when you said that your favorite chapter was Thieves, Heretics, and Horrors, I was gonna be like, okay, everybody guess which one Gerald is.
How dare you? Well, don't call me a lady, call me a gentleman.
All right, so that takes us to chapter 9, which is riding in the wagon with Ben.
That's a cool chapter.
I just read my note. The name of the chapter is what the chapter is, and like in my head, I'm like, what did I write? And then I'm like, duh, and that's exactly what it is. He is riding in a wagon with Ben. Young Quoth talks about how, he tries essentially only to ride with Ben when they're on the road. I want to say this is the first time we're introduced to an Arcanist Gilder. And, that goes back to chapter 1, which Taborlin the Great had. I think this is one of the first times that the university is brought up as well, where, Chronicler tells him something along the lines of, like, there's more books there than you could read. But there's not a whole lot that happens in this chapter, so if you guys have anything to touch on or toss out there, let's go.
Oh, yes. I would say we did gloss over the fact that Abity, which we know as Ben, actually joins the troop for a season or two. We kind of gloss over that with a little play on words on chapter 7. So he's joined the troop of the Demaru and traveling with them. And like Adam said, that Quoth is now taking a liking and wanted to ride in the wagon with Ben. And
Can I just say, how awkward would that be if he didn't join the troop and Quoth was still riding in the wagon with him?
Well, I'll be like, is he Jesus? This is.
He didn't have a bunch of candy in his van, did he? Like, oh, sorry, not van, wagon. Like,
this story reminds me of the Bible for some odd reason. But anyhow, also there's another thing in this chapter I want to mention, that there was they explain what a knack is. I think this is got a little bit of spoiler, guys. But if you read the books again, you notice that a knack is only really explained in this chapter, and it's very brief. And I thought that was kind of interesting. After my second or third read through on this book, basically a knack is, it's like a supernatural talent. It's like a talent that you would know something already.
I think the book says it best, basically, that it's an innate talent, one you're kind of born with or without, you know.
Well, that's another theory, so I can't really get involved with that part. But yeah, we find out that one of the troops has the knack, which is Trip. He rolls sevens. Wish I can have that knack myself, but apparently I cannot. So.
It's significant too because it's sevens. It's always 7 with this guy. Mm-hmm. You know, 7 things under her dress, 7 Chandrians, 7 flipping on the dice, 7
words to make someone fall in love with you.
7 words. We should start like a running list of all the 7s.
7 for Capricin. Oh, 7 for the number of completion. For the number of completion. I'm adding stuff I wanted to fit in. Also, real quick, before we take off a little bit, we find out that it was also in this chapter, Ben starts to give quote for little lessons in alchemy. Well, actually, he rounds his education for the university. Starting off, we found out that in a span, how quickly Quoth can learn in a span is 11 days. And then
I want to say there's 4 span in a month. So there's 44 days.
Sorry about that. I got it. I saw it in my list. But that is the lessons that Ben is teaching him right now is to open his mind, to widen his thought process, is really. And Quoth has actually done this in 2 months' time, basically. And that's amazing for an 11-year-old. We forgot to name his age. I mean, yeah, his age. He's 11 while this is going on, y'all. 11-year-old boy.
So that takes us to chapter 10, which is Alar and Several Stones. In this chapter, the magic system is finally brought to the forefront. That's the one that we talked about a little bit last week. You know, it kind of has to deal with math, you know, and I guess like a little bit of factoring in, like, I don't remember what he calls it, like overage or spillage, whatever later on. But yeah, that all that's centered around math whenever Patrick Rothfuss created it. Ben teaches Quoth how to split his mind in this chapter. Teaches him how to try and play a game called Seek the Stone, which is basically where he's going to make 2 versions of his mind. And one version of his mind is going to hide the stone, the other one's going to go try and find it. And that's why it's mentioned a little bit earlier in the book that all arcanists are a little bit crazy. Because in the act of splitting your mind and trying to build your Alar, it kind of makes you all a raven.
Mm-hmm.
So did you guys have anything to add to this little rookery of a chapter?
Yes, I do. Always, I mean, as soon as you ask, I'm like, yes. I'm so excited. I think that the lessons that Ben is teaching him, they come in 3. Surprise, y'all. This book has a lot of things to do with 3. He teaches Quoth the Alar, the Heart of Stone, and seek the stone. And if you tie all that together, it's only building his first lesson, which is the alar, to be a unbreakable at this moment. That I found out about it. And like Adam says, that Kof himself said that, you have to have a certain type of mindset. You have to have the mind to be in or span to learn a strong alar. If not, it can cause you to go mad a little bit. That's why like Adam said, like, when you meet most Arcanists, they might be a little touched in the head, I think, because they have split their minds. Yeah, they split their mind for a cause to absorb so much information, to hold that kind of truth, what they believe in themselves. So yes, if that makes
Honestly,
sense.
I think a lot of this, and I'm gonna kind of bleed into the next chapter a little bit, just to say that between this and all the like showing the introduction to sympathy and how like math has attributed to this magical system is, I think, a big testament of how much time Patrick Rothfuss spent in school. Yeah, but I remember like hearing this like when you first introduced me to these books, like, I don't know, it was like 8 years ago or something like that. And yeah, I remember first hearing that, and now that I think about it, it's actually kind of funny considering he can't finish many things. No bitterness here. Nothing bitter.
Chapter 11.
Chapter 11 is called The Binding of Iron. Chapter focuses on sympathy and links and the math attributed to this magic system. One of the things that's kind of funny is Quoth actually says something like he was really excited to learn magic and then super disappointed to find out what it really entailed. It's not the storybook magic. It's not some wizard casting spells, This is where, let's just go ahead and roll credits. This is where the Drab Conversation happens.
Yes, it is.
And going back to the monologue, this is the first time that Ben calls him Ilir. We'll find out later what that word means. If either of you know, feel free to chime in, because I don't remember what it is at the university at this point, and it's been a minute. But
what'd you say, Gerald? What is it?
Ben said that Malir means wise one, but Quoth knows that it really isn't. He finds out. Oh, but he knows now. He's like, I don't believe it is, but it became a little game with us.
I can't remember if it's like seer or something like that, and then Raylar's like speaker.
Seeker.
It may be it, yeah.
But we are drinking a pitch for the Drab.
So this leads into the Lady Lackless rhyme. It's an interesting note that after his mother catches him singing this, going back to kind of the spoiler we said earlier, where she's Lady Lackless, right? But like it kind of gives it away a little bit when she's like, now honey, it would really make it up to both Lady Lackless and myself if you would go do this task, right? He even tries to go back and say, well, I've seen other limericks about other people and this hasn't been a problem. And I just think that compounds on it, that it's definitely Lady Lackless. You guys take it from here.
Oh my. Oh, where to start with this? It's funny that the chapter is called Binding Iron, because I think the author likes to put little clues in his writing for you for future reference, and we got one coming up, not the next chapter, but the following, about binding iron, just to keep you enthused But like Adam said, that this is the introductory to sympathy, the magic system that they use. We see that basically the law of sympathy is like our laws of nature. You know, energy cannot be destroyed nor created. Uh, the air has weight and volume. How they explain how it works, and like Adam said earlier, Quoth was like, "Yay, I get to learn sympathy." It's not what I thought it was, but I'm glad to learn a new skill. Also, Quoth tells the chronicler a story. Yeah, this might seem like a perfect story going on that I'm 11 and learning so many things. I've gotten in trouble learning the things I learned, like with the what do you call it, a poem? No, it's a rhyme, a children rhyme, a children rhyme of Lady Lockless, and Quoth heard this rhyme twice, and he's basically just thought it was interesting and starts singing it. And lo and behold, his mother is behind him when he starts singing it, and she gets upset. And the way she gets upset is it's more than just what he's saying, because Quoth, like Adam said earlier, we have plays that are worse than what I just said. Why are you so upset, kind of thing. But he knew better to go with that point. And his mother was like, well, one's a real person, one's a fake character. So, and like I've said, if you want to make it up to me and her, go find us some lovely herbs. I'll read a little bit of the rhyme. It goes, 7 things that Lady Lackless keeps underneath her black dress. 1 ring of not for wearing, 1 sharp word or not for swearing.
So this is where me and Adam might get divorced. Because we have pretty serious disagreements about so I don't really have much for the first couple of lines, but the second one is 1 a ring that's not for wearing, 1 a sharp word not for swearing. All right, so like the overall context of this rhyme has been obviously debated on every forum you can imagine. I have always been under the impression that, obviously this ties in also to the other rhyme that we'll find out later, and we'll get to that later. But I always thought, like, okay, the 1 a ring that's not for wearing, I've always thought that was either the ring that the wood ring that Quoth's like aunt gave him in the second book, who is the actual like current Lady Lackless. And then 1 a sharp word not for swearing. I'm wondering if that is like the name of either Bone or the Moon from the Lack story. The other thing, I hate to say this is like something I don't want to happen, but I wonder if Patrick Rothfuss is gonna like pull a Star Wars and make it to where Quoth and Denna are related. And so, because I could see a lot of this relating to Denna, like a ring that's not for wearing, but it's like, precious to her, and that is her ring. Like she's obsessed with this 1 ring that she has, and we'll find.
Come back in.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna say we'll find that out later, like, more about her ring and everything. But 1 a ring that's not for wearing. There's some other things that kind of add up to that towards the end, and the next part, right beside her husband's candle, there's a door without a handle. I think that's referring to, like, basically, I think this whole poem has several, probably 7 exactly, layers of different Lackless ladies throughout the years. I think some of it might be prophetic. I think some of it might be talking about the past. And when you think, right beside her husband's candle there's a door without a handle, I think of Lyra, the kind of like what I think is the one of the original Lackless line, and it would make sense as her husband's candle would be like his life. Door without a handle would probably be either the 4-plate door or the door, doors of death, doors to death, door of stone, whatever you want to call it. But it would be the door that Lyra had, we'll find out later, that Lyra had opened to keep her husband from dying. I digress. In a box, no litter locks. Lackless keeps her husband's rocks. I mean, that's obviously has to do with the actual Lackless box that we'll find out in book 2. But I firmly believe that is where Lax actually hid the name of the moon. That's the same box where he captured, in the story we'll find out later, that's where he captured the name of the moon. And then there's a secret she's been keeping. She's been dreaming and not sleeping. So that, I feel like that could tie into the possibility that this is like a Star Wars thing where Denna is related to Quoth, because I mean, obviously, once again, Denna has been keeping secrets. She's told him before. After we'll find out later, she doesn't sleep. She has trouble sleeping. She's constantly having dreams and waking up from the nightmares, and she can't sleep. So I kind of wonder if that might tie into that, or it could be the next person on that. Later they find a vase, and it could be the other person on the vase, who is and they're saying that maybe she's kind of like one of the the 8th Chandrian who's not sleeping, as in when they say not sleeping they mean not dying, pretty much. On a road that's not for traveling, I'm not really sure. But obviously, I think the last line is one of those that was tailored. Those last 2 lines are the ones that are tailored just for Quoth's mom. On a road that's not for traveling, Lackless likes her riddle raveling. I mean, that's obviously has to do with her leaving and going on a different road to go, be with Quoth's dad, who is, we know later is that raveling is a derogatory term for the Demon Room.